Hi guys, welcome to my Samoan language instruction on but, however, then. Here's some vocabulary words for you, and let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the word but. I'm fairly confident by this time in the course you've come across the word but. And when I say the word but, I'm meaning the conjunction, okay? I am not saying the anatomy form of but. I'm not talking about your rear end, I'm talking about the conjunction that separates clauses, okay? So just to get that out there. So the form of I and ah, these are the Samoan equivalents for the word but in Samoan, okay? So I and ah is how I say the word but, and obviously this is the conjunction but. And the one that you use most often is I, okay? You notice it's not an E right there, so it's I. You have a little bit of an A sound at the end, I. And that's before almost any word. So again, this is the most common use of the word but. Then you can also use ah, and this can only come before these four select words, okay? And you'll notice that most of these are tense markers, with the exception of number 2, that's the imperative marker. But the first one that we can use with the ah form is the particle o. So that can be the particle o, or it can be the tense marker o lo'o. Okay, either one. So if I have the tense marker o lo'o or the particle o, and I'm trying to use but, then I want to use this ah form. Okay, and then the next one is if I'm using the imperative marker and I want to use the conjunction but, then I'll say ah, ia. And then the determinate past tense marker, ua, okay, so this is something that just happened. Then I would use a ua, and the habitual tense marker, a, okay, so this is in the a, it's kind of like I, but you distinguish it a little bit more, a, okay. And just to be clear, I'm telling you that you need to say with one of these words, okay? And when you use these words, you need to use ah. But if I wanted to use these words, I could also use I, okay? I don't know if that's 100% grammatically correct, but they will understand you, okay? So they will understand you if you said I, o, lo'o, they would understand you, okay? If you want to be a little bit more grammatically correct, then use ah, okay? Take this out, okay? But if you said I, o lo'o, they would understand you and you can get across your point. And honestly, Samoans make grammatical mistakes all the time, just like we do in English. So don't be too worried about this and this, when to use either, okay? So moving on, we're going to see however, okay? So however, it's a little bit more difficult than but, and we're going to see a few examples. So I can say, however, 3 different ways, and they all kind of mean the same thing, okay? There's pei ta'i, ai pei ta'i, and pei ta'i ane, okay? And so when you say one of these 3 words, again, they all mean however, and this is a conjunction like we use in English. It's used in the same way. And if I wanted to say the girl likes Bill, let's just do one of these examples. The girl likes Bill. How would I say that, okay? So is this present tense or is it habitual tense? Either one. You could say a fia fia, okay? Or you could say o lo'o fia fia if you wanted to. O lo'o fia fia. I'm just going to use a fia fia. And remember your sentence structures. We use fia fia in this case because Bill is the one doing the action, so we're using the emphatic sentence structure, so that needs to come after the verb, okay? So a fia fia, actually, sorry, the girl's the one doing the action, and Bill is the object of the sentence. So the girl is the one doing the action, so she's going to come next, le tene, and then to Bill is kind of how you think about it in Samoan, so you'll say ya pili, okay? So, and if you want to be completely correct, you'll have a ya there, okay? So that's how I say that first part. So then let's move on to the second part of the sentence, the part of the sentence that we are dealing with, okay? And that is, but she doesn't like Mark, okay? So I'm saying, but she doesn't like Mark. So let's do but first. And again, I can use I or in this case. I'm using the tense marker ua because it's the indeterminate past tense marker. She doesn't like Bill. But you could also say I a le fia fia. So you could use for either case. So we're going to use and you can use ua, which would be totally fine, or you could use the habitual tense marker a, either one. And I'm just going to use ua. Ua le fia fia, okay? That is our verb. And the one doing the action is she again. So we're going to say ua le fia fia o ia. And then the object of the sentence is Mark. And again, I would say ya mareko. Okay? So hopefully that helps. And let's move on to our second sentence. I'm not going to go completely over the whole sentence. I'm just going to go over the second portion of the sentence that we're working on right now. So this is kind of a mean sentence, but bear with me. I don't know if it's politically correct, but I'm sorry if this offends you. I like beautiful people, so I think you'd be able to say that. You would say, o te fia fia I tangata aula lele. Okay, and I use the aula lele right here. I use the second lay right here to pluralize the people. Okay, and then the second portion of the sentence, the one that we're working on right now. So, but not ugly people. So again, I'm going to say I. Okay, and then not ugly people. So leo tangata. Okay, and I say leo tangata because I am negating a noun right here, and then the thing that comes after the noun is the adjective, because I have a noun right here, and the thing that's describing the noun is the auleleanga. Okay, so auleanga. Okay? Auleanga. Okay, so I leo tangata auleanga. And for some reason you don't say auleleanga. Okay? I don't know why, but auleanga is a way that you can say ugly for single amounts of people or multiple amounts of people. Okay? All right, let's move on. Again, if you're having trouble, rewind and watch again. Okay? So they don't want to go to the funeral. You should be able to say that by now in the course. And the way that you'd say that is lato te leifia o iletanunga. And if you want to be, respectful, you would say fale lawasinga. That's the respectful way to say a funeral. And then I'm going to use however right here. Okay? And however is going to be one of these three that we were talking about. And I'm just going to use the most basic form of it, pei ta'i. But they must is how I'm saying it. So, pei ta'i. You can just say must. This will be implied, e te tau. Pei ta'i e te tau, and the they will be implied. Or you can say pei ta'i e te tau ona lato. Okay, you would finish this off with this. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to the most difficult concept in this video, which is then. Okay, so we're moving on to then. If you need to take a break, it's been 9 minutes. But again, at this point in the course, I think you shouldn't be having too much trouble keeping up. So if that's the case, good. If not, then take a break. The Samoan, the words ona, ... lea, and let me fix that. And the dots mean something goes in between the ona and the lea, okay? So this expression right here, the ona, ... lea, is the way that I express then in Samoan. So if I'm saying a sentence like, I need to go to the grocery store and then go to the bank, that's the kind of then that we're talking about, okay? It's normally going to be in the middle part of the sentence, or it's going to be that second clause that will be in a sentence, okay? So let me kind of just explain what part is which. So this ona right here comes before the predicate. And if you don't remember what a predicate is, then don't worry. A predicate is normally going to be the verb or the part of the sentence that contains the verb. Okay, so we call that a predicate phrase. But in Samoan, we can also, like I said, if you go back to my predication video, I think it's in chapter 2, maybe 3. But the predication video tells you that you can also, in Samoan only, not in English, but you can use adjectives, adverbs, and other forms of grammatical functions as a predicate or predicate phrase. So just remember that if you need a brush up on that, remember to go back to that video. But normally it's going to be the verb or the verb phrase, okay? So that's what ona does. It comes right before that verb or the predicate of some sort. And then the leia, let's go with this. The leia comes immediately after that phrase. So you'll have ona, then you'll have your predicate or your predicate phrase, and then leia will kind of cap it off, if you will. And with this part, the phrase containing ona ... leia doesn't need a tense marker. That's another important part. Okay, so at the very beginning part of the sentence, you'll probably have a tense marker. You'll do your normal sentence structure, and then you'll have a then statement which will start off with the ona. Then you'll have your predicate, and then the leia will end that predicate, and you'll continue on with the sentence. So let's see an example here. So his mother came, so I would do my normal sentence structure in that part of the sentence. And then this is right here kind of what we're talking about, then. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of walk through this. Ona comes first. Then at this point, I need to find out what the predicate is. Okay? So the predicate in this part of the sentence, like I told you, is normally going to be the verb. So went is going to be the verb, right? So let's put that in there. And so the way that I would say went or go for a single person, we're talking about he going, is alu, okay? And again, you're going to be tempted to put sa alu right here, but you don't need to do that. Remember how I said in that part of the sentence you don't need a tense marker. So at the beginning of the sentence, his mother came, right here. This tense marker right here, the na, for the first part of the sentence, you can kind of just think as that carries over to this next part of the sentence. Okay, so whichever tense you're speaking in, it kind of depends on the beginning part of the sentence and which tense marker you use there, and it's implied in the then part of the sentence. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And that's kind of one of the harder parts about this video is you don't need a tense marker in the then part of the sentence, okay? So let's get rid of that. Actually, I'll highlight or underline that again. And I'll start off with ona, and I'll put my predicate right after the ona. And if I wanted to, I could put a loa right here, like going immediately. It doesn't really matter, but that needs to go with, if you did put loa, it needs to go right after the alu because this is a verb and this is an adverb. Adverbs normally, with the 3 exceptions, follow their verb. So that in that case, you'd have a predicate phrase if you did the loa because you have a verb and an adverb. But let's not put that on. Let's just say we're just going to have a predicate, and then that will finish off my predicate. So I'll use a leia, okay? And at that point, we're going to start saying the rest of the sentence. And I already said went, so I don't need to put that anymore. So this is kind of the tricky part of putting these sentences together is he to the movie. How do I put that? Well, the next thing that comes normally is the person that was doing the action or the subject of the sentence. And that's he. So o ia. And then I would say my prepositional phrase goes next. So that would be, let's kind of mark this off. So let's see, let me erase this really quick, sorry. And let's say the first part that comes after the leia is normally going to be your subject. And so that's why I'm putting o ia, okay? O ia. Okay, and then the next part is going to normally be the object, okay, or the prepositional phrase, and that in this case is to the movie, and so this will be e, lay, and with space issues, I'm going to write here, tifanga, okay? So, ona alu lea o ia ile tifanga. So this is, again, this is the trickiest part of the video, is the then, but I think if you go over these examples a couple times, you'll be able to do this. So again, we're going to do another example here. The girls showered. You just use your basic sentence structure skills right there. So na ta ele le tene, and that na right here kind of carries over to the next part of the sentence because I have a then. Okay, and let's move all that. Then she slept. Okay, so then she slept. So all I would do is I would put my ona. And then what is my predicate in this part of the sentence? Well, that's slept, so moi, and I don't need to put a sa or a na moi because that na kind of takes place of that in these then statements. So then moi, and then again, if I wanted to, I could put loa as an adverb, as she immediately slept. But in this case, I'm just going to put moi lea to cap off my predicate. And then I'm going to do the subject, which is oia. Same as he. Okay, so you'd obviously have to read into that the girl right here is the one doing the showering, and that's she. You use basically the setting or the proper context. Okay, so again, if this is a little bit too much, pause here, rewind, and review it again. I would encourage reviewing it again if something's not clear. But we're going to move on to the next part, is descriptive pronouns may come between ona and the verb. So if I have a subject that is a descriptive pronoun, and you should know those by now, if you need to brush up on those, then you need to go back to my descriptive pronoun video. But those, if you have a subject, okay, so like in these, the she or the he, the one doing the action, if it's a descriptive pronoun, it can come between ona and the verb, okay? So in this case, I would put my descriptive pronoun, just like I do in my descriptive sentence structure, I'd put the pronoun before the verb. And they would just take place between ona and Leah. Okay? So again, so we'll just go over this real quick. I'll bathe in the house. You'll just use that the same way that you would do it in all of the other cases that we've talked about. I'll bathe in the house is o te ta ele ile fale. Okay? Then I'll go to the store. Okay? And an emphasis on the then. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to put my ona because I have a then statement, okay? So ona, then I need to think, okay, I'm using a descriptive pronoun, this thing right here. Normally I would put my predicate or my verb next, but this is telling me if I'm using a descriptive pronoun that I can put that before the predicate or the verb, okay? So ona, and then al or I, this is the descriptive pronoun that I'm going to use. So I would say ona o, and then I would put my verb, alu. And if I wanted to, I could put a loa right there, but again, I'm not going to. Leia, that's how I would do it. If, for example, I wanted to do it the other way without a descriptive pronoun, the way that I would do it is I would switch it like this. I would say ona alu, leia, oa'u. Okay? So do you see the difference there? In the star case that I've given you, ona o alu leia, if I'm using a descriptive pronoun, that comes between the ona and the leia, and it also comes before my verb just like it does in the descriptive sentence structure. So I have o right there. But in the example that I'm showing you, I'm not using a descriptive pronoun that would go in that area right here. I am not using that, so I need to put it after the leia. Okay, so descriptive pronouns can come in between the ona leia section, and emphatic need to come after. Okay, so that's the difference. If I wanted to do the emphatic way, ona alu leia oa'u is how I would do it, and then I would say to the store. And we've kind of done that a few times. And either way is okay. I would suggest doing it this way, though, right here, the way that we've been talking. But again, you can do it either way if you want to have an emphasis on you being the one doing the action. So then we would just say to the store, and you should be able to do that on your own. Okay, moving on, we will go to the store. Again, you just use your normal sentence structure skills. Mātou te o I le whale o loa, so that's if you're talking to someone and you're excluding them. If you wanted to include them, you just switch mātou with tato. Okay, and then moving on to then we will come back. Okay, so I'm going to have my ona come first. Ona. Then I need to think, okay, I'm using a descriptive pronoun or an emphatic pronoun so if it's a descriptive pronoun, then it can come between the ona ... leia section. If it's any other kind of doer or subject, then it needs to come after, like we did up here, okay? Okay, so that's the difference between the two. If I'm going to use a descriptive pronoun, so that would be mātou. We would use mātou because we said mātou in the beginning. If I wanted to include them, I would use tato in this case. And then I would say the predicate, which would be come back. So this is a little bit different. It's not just oh my, like you might presume. You need to put an adverb, and this adverb would be one of the exceptions. And I need to write a little bit smaller. So ona, mātou, and then come back is toi. This is one of the adverbs that is the exception of going before the verb in Samoan, and this would be oh my, which would be the plural form of come. Okay, then I would cap that off with leia, and sorry that leia is small. Okay, so that's how I would just say the very beginning part of the sentence, and then after that I would say that would be the end of the sentence. So in that case, the leia would cap off the end of the sentence. Okay, again, this is a lot. This is very deep. I would encourage you at this point to pause and come back to this in 10 minutes. Okay, so moving on to the next part, we have if the verb is seen as the reason. Okay, so sorry, the first verb is seen as the reason or the cause for the second, then the particle I comes before I. Okay, so if the first verb is the reason for the second verb, then you have to use this leia that comes, you have a particle I that comes before leia. Okay, so let me kind of just walk you through an example real quick. I went to the house. I would just use my normal sentence structure abilities. Sa o alo I le whale. Okay, and then I slept. And in other words, the reason I went to the house was to sleep. Okay, so the first verb right here went to the house, then I slept. Okay, the reason I went to the house is because I wanted to sleep. Okay, so this is where you use the rule that I'm talking about right here. The particle I comes before leia. That's the only thing that changes. So remember, if the first verb is the cause or the reason for the second, then the only difference I make is I put this particle I before the leia. Okay, so we'll see that in the second part of the sentence. Then I slept. Okay, so again I start off with ona, and then I'm going to use a descriptive pronoun so I can do that in the middle of my ona ... leia section. And then the sleep right here is going to be my predicate or my verb. So ona o moi, and then I'm saying that the first verb right here is the cause or the reason for the second. And so instead of ending that off with leia like I would normally do, I'm indicating to the person that what I'm telling you, the first verb is the reason for the second. I went to the house because I wanted to sleep is what you're essentially saying as you put this I right here. So this is one of the uses for I. We'll get into some other uses of I later on in the course. Okay, so let's do the second example. and that is Jim ate the food, so you should be able to translate that pretty easily. So that would be sa ai simi le mea ai, okay? And again, I don't need a tense marker for the second portion of the sentence, but then he was happy. So again, since I ate the food, or since Jim ate the food, he was happy. So I'm going to put an I before that Leia. Again, so I'm starting off with ona, okay? Then he was happy. So if I wanted to, I could do a descriptive pronoun or an emphatic pronoun. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to do an emphatic form. So I'm just going to go straight to my predicate, which is fia, okay? And then, again, I'm saying, before I put my Leia, I'm putting a I there to indicate to the person the first verb was the reason for the second. And then I'm going to put my subject, or the person doing the action, which is oia. Okay? So again, if I wanted to, I could put a ona ia fia I Leia, and that would be the end of the sentence. Or I can do it the way that I showed you right now, and it's ona fia I Leia oia. Okay? So just to kind of clarify that really quick, if I wanted to, I could switch this whole thing to ona ia fia I Leia, and that would be perfectly fine. Or I can do it this other way. I just wanted to show you the two different ways of doing it. Okay, so we have one more slide. I know there's a lot of meat and potatoes in this section, but I don't want this to scare you. If this does scare you, then take a break, come back to this at another time. If I feel like at this point, though, that you should be fairly confident in your Samoan, and so you should be able to do this. So let me just break this up. So anytime I have a blue thing right here, a highlighted blue word, that is my object. So just remember, blue means object in this first part of the sentence. And then the green part means this transitive verb plus Leia. And then the particle O is yellow. Okay? If you don't remember what a transitive verb is, then you need to remember, and you need to go back to my video on transitive verbs versus intransitive verbs. But just a really quick description of what they are. Transitive verbs are ones that transfer their action. There's going to be an object that receives that action. So the batter hit the ball. So hit is a verb. It's also a transitive verb because it's transferring its action and the object is receiving the action of being hit. Okay? There's also like I walked in the park. That would be intransitive because walk is a verb, but there's nothing really receiving the action of that verb. There's no object. There's a subject, there's the person doing the walking, but they're not receiving the action. They're the ones performing the action. Okay? So any verb that is transferring its action to an object, the object is preceded, okay, by the particle O. Okay? So again, this is something that's a little bit heavy, but just remember, so this first part right here, I should be able to translate with ease. I opened the door, sa'o tatalaina le faitatoa, and then I turned on the light. Okay? So I'm going to start with my ona like always. Ona. And then I turned on o ki. Okay? This is my, just like we've done before, this is my descriptive pronoun, this is my predicate or my verb. Okay? And then I end it with the Leia. And then all I do here is since there's going to be, so since this right here, this key right here, this is a transitive verb. It's transferring its action to an object. All I'm saying is I'm going to have a particle O right here, okay? And then the object comes next, le moli, okay? Moli. That's all I'm saying is you do it like you normally do. And then since there's going to be an object, I precede that object with a particle O. Okay? And that's all you need to think of. Okay? So let's move on to the second part. I ate, you should be able to say that, I hope so, by this point in the course, is sa o I. And then you would say, then I read the book. So again, I'm going to just do it the normal way that I normally do. So I'm going to say ona, o, And then red is going to come next, phi tau. And then I'm going to end it off like normal. Okay, so this is kind of my green part that I'm telling you about right here, just to kind of keep our colors essential. So the phi tau and the Leia is what I'm saying is this right here. Sorry, the colors aren't completely equivalent. But then I'm going to say that goes next is my particle O. So I'll have a particle O right there. And let me get the right color. So that will be this. Okay. And then I'll just say the object, O le tusi. And I'll get back to my normal color. And that will be le tusi. And I'm going to write that over. So sorry for the small space, but all right. So ona o phi tau lea o le tusi. All I'm saying in this very top part of this slide is you do everything the same. You do everything the same except when you have a transitive verb, something that transfers its action to an object, then you precede that object with an O. Or you can just think of it as if I have an object and I have a then statement, then I'll do everything the same, and then what comes after the Leia is the particle O and then my object. Whichever way you need to think about it, that's the way. So then the last thing that we need to talk about is if a subject follows Leia. So instead of an object following Leia, we're talking about someone doing an action. Then you also just do a particle O. So whenever I have a subject other than a pronoun, okay, so my emphatic pronouns or my descriptive pronouns, if I have some kind of subject other than those, then I do the same thing. I'll finish off with the Leia, then I'll do a particle O, and then that subject will come right after that particle O. And I'm going to let you kind of work those last two sentences out on your own and kind of just see how, whether I have an object or a subject, I just put a particle O in front of them if it's not a descriptive or emphatic pronoun. Okay, so then I have some practice sentences for you. I encourage you to pause the video at this point, practice these. Okay, and here are the answers. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for your subscriptions. And I will see you next time. Tofa soy fo.